Hi, everybody. Joe Cioffi here. Weather in 5 days and 5 minutes. Heads up tomorrow morning at 11 a.m. The Joe and Joe Weather Show as the storm parade continues in the eastern U.S. Weather in 5 brought to you by Omni True Value Hardware at 1226 North Wellwood Avenue in West Babylon. They've got salt, they've got sand, and they've got mulch. They are Long Island's largest rock salt source. And of course, whatever you need when it comes to getting through any winter storms, should we ever get any, they have plenty in stock. So bear that in mind in case we do get something at some point. 631-756-1125 is the phone number. The website, omnitruevalue.com. So as we get set, kind of been describing this as a parade of storms. And there you go. Had to get the satellite loop up there for you. And you see it here. We are seeing uh, clouds. We had a lot of clouds today. It just never did get out of the way. We still have troughiness across the Great Lakes and Northeast, and it just made clearing a very, very difficult proposition here. But we are beginning to see moisture gather around in the Gulf states. So there's energy that is coming out from the Central Plains that's producing some snows in southeastern Colorado and also into Kansas. So we have winter storm warnings up for western Kansas, advisories into northwest Missouri. Now, the first advisories and winter storm watches are up for the western Carolina mountains, the mountains of western Virginia, eastern West Virginia, through central into northeastern Pennsylvania to the Catskills, north and east up toward Albany. We start to get into winter storm watches in Vermont, New Hampshire, and once again in Maine. I tend to think we might see these expanded just a little bit when we head to tomorrow morning, depending on what some of the overnight models are. But for most areas, certainly from the big cities, from Boston to New York to Philadelphia, yeah, there might be a little bit of snow or sleet at the start to remind you that it can happen. But other than seeing flakes and hearing pings on your windshield, it's going to be mostly rain. There is a small chance. I'm going to mention it. There's a small chance, and we'll revisit this tomorrow, that there might be a changeover to snow before this ends. So we'll get into that in just a little bit. But again, a bit greater probability for that happening is, probably unrealistic, but you never know. Meanwhile, radars are quiet throughout the Northeast and Mid-Atlantic. You can see the rains and some heavy rains breaking out across Mississippi and Alabama. Those are moving up into Georgia. And you see the energy that's pulling that along, that is coming out of Kansas with the snow there, that extends up into northwest Missouri and southeastern Nebraska. The WPC, the Weather Prediction Center, showing over the next 7 days an inch and a half or more of liquid precip up and down the East Coast, with larger amounts in southeastern New England and Long Island on the order of 2 inches plus, and some 2.5 inch amounts in parts of southern Georgia and along the Florida Panhandle. Things have really calmed down in the West, and hardly any precip in California and Nevada. Some light precip over the next 7 days in the Pacific Northwest, and also up in the northern and central Rockies, really not amounting to too much. Now, here's the probability of at least 2 inches, and this is going to carry us through Tuesday. So this is the Sunday event, and it's clean here. It's just the one event. So we have a high probability of at least two, of 80% or more. In the Catskills, in central New York, in northern New York, up to the Adirondacks, across Vermont, New Hampshire, and into Maine. And as far as anything significant goes, we'll show you where the probability for at least 8 is. The darker green is 30 to 40%, so it's not all that high. Vermont into New Hampshire and Maine, and you get higher amounts in a few pockets, and over in eastern Maine. Also seeing low probabilities coming up in toward the end of the forecast period for at least 8 in North Texas and western Oklahoma. If we lower it back to 2, you can see the probability for at least 2, 50% or higher. Western Oklahoma on up into northwest Texas, eastern New Mexico, kind of staking back across Arizona, with lighter probabilities as you go north and west. Now, as far as the Wednesday system is concerned, I think there's a chance here that we could see a little bit of snow on the front end, even for the cities, Philadelphia, New York, to Boston. It might not amount to much, but it might be for a lot of those areas. It may wind up being the first measurable snow of the winter. Meanwhile, you go up into northwest New Jersey, the Hudson Valley north of Route 84, Connecticut north of Route 84, north and west of there, we're looking at 30 to 50% in the dark green, and in the blue, where you've got the Poconos, the Catskills, on up through the Berkshires and into Vermont, New Hampshire, and western Maine, we are looking at the probability there of 50 to 70%. And these numbers have been coming up in time. So I want to take you through what's going on in the upper air pattern, both in the short and long term. As we're finally, getting rid of this troughing that's been in the west, the energy now is dropping more into the southwest, and you can see it here. We're seeing this next trough coming out. It's not as vigorous as what models were showing a few days ago. So we're taking a flattish looking low through the eastern part of the United States. And again, there's a chance with the upper trough coming through on Monday where we get some colder air to come in, and a chance that we could see a changeover before it ends. Meanwhile, you see the energy down in the southwest right in here. And this is the system for Wednesday. It's a bit more vigorous, but here too, the models seem to have overdone the deepening. Instead of taking a major storm up to the Great Lakes, it's taking a much flatter system out to the east. So I think that opens the door for something on the front end. Ultimately, it probably changes to rain, certainly along the coast, and the areas north and west of Route 84 will probably see more in the way of snow out of this. Longer term, what's happening is that we're getting troughing dropping down into the west, but not in the same way that what we saw before. There is a little bit of a cold connection from Canada. And I think the key as we go into the very end of the month and the beginning of February is if the flow in the east in the upper air is flat enough. In other words, it's not backing to the southwest or the south, but stays more west-southwest, like it's shown here. We could have more cold air trying to drain down from the north, and this energy comes out in this southwest flow, west-southwest flow. There's a chance that we could wind up seeing some overrunning precipitation, and maybe we could also have the possibility that we might see more in the way of wintry precipitation out of this. So let's take you through Sunday and see what goes here as we run through the latest model of the GFS, which seems to be handling things better than the others. So here comes our low. It's down on the Florida Panhandle. There's not much, if any, cold air in the Northeast, so you work with what you have. The low is in South Carolina Sunday evening. Might start as some snow in northwest New Jersey and in the Hudson Valley before it goes to rain. You see the low there. It's a 99 low east of the Delaware coast. Snows are at the point we get to 1 a.m. Monday are well up to the north. And then as the low goes by, it begins to stretch out and that upper trough comes in. You see how the model starts to generate some darker blue snows here from New England down even in through central New Jersey before the low finally pulls away. And then the next one comes out. This one was supposed to be a major storm to the lakes. It's coming out much flatter, and you see that high that's up in Quebec. So a little bit of cold air gets draining down on the coast. The models are showing some snow on the front end here before it goes over to rain. The lows goes into northeast Ohio, redevelops right in our backyard. So again, the bulk of that precip's going to wind up being rain, and then after that, it turns colder. We have a little bit of a polar front coming through next weekend. And then we'll start to see if we can set up for some overrunning situations here as we move through into the longer range. This is about as hopeful for you winter weather lovers. One thing we can say, and at least from the standpoint of the amount of money you're spending on heating oil to heat your homes in the Northeast, it is far less than it could be given how mild the temperatures have been this winter so far, and it doesn't look like it's going to get overly cold at any time, even in the long range. Weather in 5 is brought to you by Omni True Value Hardware at 1226 North Wellwood Avenue in West Babylon, New York. 631-756-1125 is the telephone number, and the website is omnitruevalue.com. Don't forget the Sunday morning Joe and Joe Weather Show with this storm parade going on will be on at 11 a.m. Eastern Time on my YouTube channel. So have a great rest of your weekend.